I'm Travis, and I'm a video game nerd.
I'm Elizabeth, and I'm a book nerd.
And we like to share our nerd nonsense with each other.
This week we read It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini. This is Books and Video Games. Let's get into it.
Elizabeth, you want to start us off with something?
I just want to start us off with a trigger warning. We're going to be discussing suicide, child loss, self-harm, a lot of sexual assault, a lot of different things. It's a heavy book, and we don't want you to go into this blind and unprepared, both when you're reading the book and when you're listening to this review.
We love having you along for the ride, but if this ride's not for you, that's okay. We'll see you next time.
Let's get into it, though. Travis, give us a brief explanation of our book.
So our protagonist, Craig, it starts off with him kind of discussing studying for this big test to get into this specific high school that he really wants to get into, that's really hard to get into. And the way that he studies ends up being kind of like a hyper-fixated, like nothing else matters kind of study sesh for like a long time. Sort of alienates a lot of his friends. That combined with the stress of being then at that school that he does get into really kind of leads him down a negative spiral. And the way that he looks at himself is different. He ends up getting into a couple of concerning things such as suicidal ideation. He's got an eating disorder. He doesn't sleep well at all sorts of different things. Suicidal ideation leads to an attempt, or at least him getting very serious about attempting, which leads him to eventually get admitted to a psych ward of a hospital. And not a teenager or an adolescent psych ward of a hospital, but an adult one, because there's only room in that one and not in the other one.
It's under construction.
It's under construction.
So there's not
That's
one.
Right. Yeah, I'll never get that detail right.
No, you won't.
Many times as we talk about it.
Every time I have to correct you.
And then just, everything ensues from there.
Excellent synopsis.
Thanks.
Craig, at the beginning of the book, is talking to Dr. Minerva about the shift and how he's just always waiting for the shift. Do you ever feel like that? Have you ever felt like there was a point in your life where you were just waiting for the shift?
So not, I think, to as severe a degree as Craig discusses, because for him, it feels like one monumental big thing. Whereas I remember being a kid and waiting for like this, not grass is greener moment of like, and after this thing, it will inevitably be better, but more like, you go from elementary school to middle school and then to high school. And there's always like this shift that could happen. And you consider like, well, what if I'm then a different person because of those experiences? Nothing really super major necessarily. Other than like nothing outside the norm for any coming of age adolescent going through life. I don't know. What about you?
So I definitely saw Craig's shift as more of a mental health thing than just an adolescent thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's been many times in my life that I'm just waiting for the shift, the one like key thing that will just change everything, and then I'll be mentally healthy and mentally well, and I won't have to worry about myself anymore.
Yeah.
And like and this is so embarrassing, guys, but just in the past 6 months, I've noticed myself waiting for this shift. When summer came around and all of my kids were going to be home, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm going to get my schedule all figured out. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to be exercising. Everything's just going to come easier because we don't have to work on someone else's schedule. It'll just be mine. And guess what?
She did a really great job.
No, I was still a mess. I was still a mess. And then school just started. And when school was starting, I found myself thinking, oh my gosh, we just got to get these kids out of here, and then I can get everything together, and I'm going to be a whole new person, and everything's going to be so much better. And it's silly. It's silly. It's not silly because it's a real thing and we all do it. And it's definitely not silly when Craig does it or when you do it. It's silly when I do it because I know better. Because I know that there's not just like some magical key that I can turn and then everything will come easier to me.
All you parents out there know what's up. This is how it goes.
But I'm always waiting for it. And not just like in a lot of facets of my life, primarily around myself, where I'm just like, if I can find the best journal, then everything else is going to fall into place and I'm going to be a whole different person.
She's an ADHDer looking for the right system.
I'm a pile of, what are they called? Oh no, guys. A pile of diagnoses in a trench coat pretending to be a person.
Aren't we all?
No. You almost immediately found Craig to be super endearing. What did you find so endearing about him?
I think that there's something just so like raw and brutal and honest about just even the way he thinks, because he discusses a lot the thoughts that he has, and he's just like such a kid, you know. And like the one that always sticks out to me, I'm gonna like probably miss some of the details, but he talks about like considering doing certain drugs, and then he's like, well, I can't end up doing crack or cocaine. Heroin. Was it heroin? Because then I would just be like a suicidal teenager addicted to heroin, and then I'd be a cliche. And it was like such a throwaway line, but the book is full of these kinds of things. And just the whole time I was like, one, I felt sorry for him with everything he's going through, obviously. But two, I just appreciated his like brutal honesty and just the like stream of consciousness that we were invited into in this book.
That's fair. There's a lot of candor there.
Yes.
Where he's just very frank with us, which I also love.
Yeah.
I think I found it a little bit less endearing than you did. And I don't know why. Because it could just be because I was like, Craig.
You maybe have more negative experiences with stupid teenage boys too.
What?
See, I just was a stupid teenage boy.
So you're like, oh, he's adorable.
Yeah. So relatable.
So relatable. Were you surprised by how long it took to get into the hospital portion of the book based on the synopsis that we read online?
I think so, because when you introduced the book to me, that is how you introduced it to me. And it took a while. I didn't think about it immediately, but I think I want to say like just a couple of pages before it actually happened, I was like, wait a minute, is this when it's finally gonna, like, are we gonna get there now? Because I was really curious to find out about him being in the adult section or an adult psychiatric ward of a hospital. And it just like hit me all of a sudden that had not happened yet. And I was well into this book. Sounds like it surprised you as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the first time I read it, but the second time I read it, just because I think all of the lead up is really critical and it really builds a character.
Yeah.
But the things that I remembered about the book were after he checks himself into the hospital. And so I didn't think about it. I didn't think about the before stuff. And so when it just kept going, I was like, what is happening? Just a little bit.
Totally fair.
What did you think of Craig's mom's pride that he went to the hospital and he checked himself in?
The lead up to that was so interesting, right? Because in any story where you would have this situation, the situation being that Craig checks himself into the hospital and then the parents are made aware and then they come into the scene and you're wondering how they're going to react. I feel like you're holding your breath because parents are imperfect and they have a wild variety of responses. I would say that there are certainly worse responses. I feel like, because she basically said, like, I'm proud of myself as a mother, or I must be doing a good job as a mother if this is how you responded to the situation.
She also says she's proud of him.
Okay. Yeah.
She doesn't just take pride in herself.
That's
she
good.
Does put pride on Craig.
I was forgetting about that portion.
Well.
I think it's interesting, right? Because in a way, I could see that possibly that relieves Craig a little bit of whatever guilt he might have had for because even like having suicidal ideation, you feel, I'm sure, guilt for even the things that you're not going to end up doing, right? Including the impact that that's going to have on your loved ones. And so I think while it was a little bit funny of her to kind of like make it about herself out loud a little bit, I do wonder if it's possibly exactly what Craig needed to hear in that moment.
I think also, like, good for her. Good for her for, in that moment, instead of being like, I'm a terrible mother, that you had to get to the point that you went to the hospital. She was like, I'm a great mother because you knew where to turn to when things got too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's about Craig, and it should be about Craig, but everything that's happening to Craig is also happening to his family. And it's interesting to have seen some of the scenes with them, like around the dinner table and stuff, and see how much it really is happening to all of them.
Yeah.
And how much they're all just trying to cope with what it's happening. And again, it is happening to Craig most of all. But when you see someone that you love going through mental health struggles, you're not so far removed from that. That's someone that you love. That's someone that you want to take care of. And I really was happy with his mom's response.
Yeah.
I think more teenagers need to know that, like, it's okay. It's okay to seek help, and we'll figure it out. You do what you need to do to stay alive, and the rest of us will figure out how to keep you safe and happy and everything.
Yeah.
What did you think about Dr. Mahmood saying that life isn't cured, it's managed?
I have such mixed feelings about this, because on the one hand, he's right, but I'm pissed that he's right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think because, like, it's true. You can't cure life. You don't get to come out of a situation like Craig's situation and be cured of suicidal ideation and be like, it's impossible that this can happen again. I've developed an immunity to it. That's not how it works. And a great deal of things in life are exactly that way. And there's an almost, it feels somewhat defeatist in a way. I don't know, like, but it's also very human. I don't know. He's very realistic. He's a doctor. He needs to be. He's not trying to give people false hope. So it makes total sense that he, as a doctor, is saying this. But there's a part of me that's just like, oh, calling life managed? Like, are we sinking that low? Is to say, like, we're just managing life? But that's a heck of a lot better than how he was doing. So it's definitely at least a step in the right direction. But I feel like there's got to be a better way of looking at it. I don't know.
I think that's really interesting. I would label you as more neurotypical than myself, at least. Definitely than Craig.
Sure.
I mean, but I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself that far off from Craig in a lot of ways. But I think that you, having not had any chronic health or mental health problems, it's easy for you to be like, but isn't life a little bit better than that? But, like, what if it's not? What if you know that this is something that you're always going to struggle with? Yeah. And if someone said, well, we're working on a cure, and the cure never comes, you're going to end up back on the bridge thinking about jumping. I'm
definitely I'm a naive optimist in that way, right? Because having not experienced some of these things, knowing that people have experienced these things, feeling what they've experienced as much as I'm actually capable of, which is not very much, I feel like, I want better for them. I desire better for them so much that when I hear, like, life isn't cured, it's managed, I'm like, no, like, it's got to be better than that for them.
But that's so much better than what it is.
Yeah.
And you have to manage it. You have to manage depression and anxiety and ADHD and OCD
everything else in life, realistically.
Yeah, but specifically those things, the moment you stop managing them, they get on top of you. If you stop taking your medication, if you stop going to therapy, if you stop exercising, eating right, all of these things that you have to do to help manage these things, like it will get on top of you. So managing it is the cure. Like there is no magic shift like we talked about, that one day it will just be easier. It will always be managing. And so I feel like I've said managing so many times now that like it's not a word anymore. But you have to manage expectations as well.
You do, for sure. Yeah.
I really related to Craig when he started the cycling about him not really having depression or it just being about attention and that he's actually a prima donna. What were you thinking during that scene?
I'm more curious to know what you're thinking. It feels like there's an aspect of guilt there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much guilt.
Like you're not allowed to have attention.
Well, just there is a lot of self-doubt, I think. And when you're doubting yourself, you feel guilty because if I can think, oh, well, maybe I'm not really depressed. In this moment, I feel okay. And so the rest of the time, that's me looking for attention. That's me being too much. Stop it. You're going to make me cry. Which I determined I wasn't going to do because I didn't grab tissues.
We'll see.
But there is very much that feeling of like, anytime there's a happy moment, anytime there's a free moment, it feels like every other moment was fake. Every other moment, I must have been making it up. Or when the medication starts to work, you're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't depressed this whole time. Even though it's the medication making you better, you're like, I was just being dramatic because I'm fine now.
That feels very imprisoning.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. This is not supposed to be a therapy session.
Here we are.
Here we are. But it is. Your mind is one of the worst prisons you can exist in, particularly, I think, when you have mental health issues. And I think my experience with depression is very much that it's cyclical. Like, it won't let me feel good about anything. Because if I have a feel good moment, it's like, well, if you're feeling good, then that one isn't real. And then if I feel bad, it's you're ungrateful because you can't even remember ever being happy. Or, like it doesn't matter where on the cycle you are, depression is going to make everything feel bad that you do. And I think that's what the cycling is. Like you get stuck in this cycle of, okay, I feel good right now, but that means that I don't really have depression. So I'm a faker and I'm a liar. And oh my gosh, now I feel terrible. And so I do have depression, but that means that I'm not being grateful for the things that I have. That means that I'm not loving the people that I want. That means I'm not being present in my life. So I've got to find a way to be present in my life. And if I'm not present in my life, why am I even here? You need to talk some more, please.
I'm sorry that this is a thing that you experience so constantly.
I mean, we're working on it.
I just see you as somebody who deserves to feel liberated from all of this. And I know it's not that simple because life isn't cured, it's managed.
But like everyone deserves to be liberated from it is the thing. Like I know that you have a personal attachment to me, but like I'm no more worthy of being mentally healthy than anyone else. But the thing is, I do have access to things that will help me. I think one of the really interesting things about the book is seeing the very different circumstances that all of these people are in. Because there are the people who have the support that they're going to be okay. And there are the people who wouldn't even give Craig their phone number at the end of the book because they don't want him to know how bad it might get.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel really privileged to be in a position where I can sit here and talk about my mental health and know that I have advocates for me, you, but also my therapist and the psychiatrist and so much family and everything. And not everyone has all of those tools or access to those tools, especially in our country with the way that healthcare works. And that's so frustrating.
Super frustrating.
Anyways, something that I found was really interesting as someone who has struggled with suicidal ideation, still does at times struggle with suicidal ideation, is that Dr. Minerva tells Craig that if he starts struggling again, he needs to come back to the hospital.
I also thought that was interesting. I don't know what protocol usually is. I don't have experience with this kind of thing, but I think it does make some sense, right? Like if you've been just about there once, then going straight to the hospital, I think, is probably a good idea when you're struggling with it again.
Mm-hmm. I get it conceptually. And you should. Again, you should. There's a quote from Alice in Wonderland. I give very good advice, but I very seldom take it. So I'm going to say you should. Absolutely.
But you would feel the guilt.
I would feel a lot of guilt. And I've never been told that I'm bad enough to go to the hospital. No matter what the suicidal ideation has looked like, whether it was passive or more active, I've never been told, hey, you might want to go check yourself in. And so I think that like Craig's first experience checking himself in, I think that was like, absolutely, that made sense to me. He was like, well, I'm either going to go bike to the bridge or I'm going to go to the hospital right now. And going to the hospital is the right choice. If it's only two choices, absolutely, that's the correct choice. But I don't know. I've never gotten that advice. And so there's something that inside of me that feels weird about it. And I don't know whether it's the me inside there being like, well, that means you're actually not that bad and you're being dramatic. Or whether that's... Because
you won't let yourself feel it. Or be important enough.
Or whether that's like, has the system failed me? Like, should I have been? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say for sure, right? Because obviously you are, and gratefully you are still here.
I'm here.
And just because you've never taken it that step too far doesn't mean that a visit to the hospital in the past couldn't have potentially been beneficial to you, you know?
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna tangent. I'm really sorry. This was not in the plan, but it's really interesting because there have been times where I've wished that I was that bad. There have been times where I've wished that my depression was worse so that I could get an effing break. And we've talked about this, Travis and I, a little bit with the show This Is Us. When Toby's depression is bad enough that he's just lying in bed and everything. And I think I said to you, that seems so nice. I wish that I could get that bad. Which is a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And obviously, if your depression is that bad, that's not like genuinely a break and you're not getting rest. And it's like, and I understand that. And I think that's some passive suicidal ideation. I just want a break. I just don't want to be me for a little while. I don't want to be in my body. I don't want to be a human.
But it's also, I think it's so human to recognize that in those moments of your just like deepest depression, that's when you want to just be able to switch over and be like, now I need a break. Because I think about like, we're fortunate enough to have been able to send you off on like some solo travel trips, not extremely often, but where you get to go and just kind of be just you for a couple of days and hang out with friends and have some recreation and everything. And that feels like it's probably, I think, pretty restful to you, but you can't plan that around like, and about this date, I'm going to like really hit my lowest point and then I'm going to fly off to wherever, like that's not how it works. It's tricky.
And even those, like, I love my trips and I love my solo trips, but they do involve a lot of thinking. They involve a lot of doing. And if I'm going to fly somewhere, I have to maximize that time and I have to enjoy the time, because if I've flown somewhere and I'm not enjoying the time, then I'm wasting money and I'm wasting time away from my family and like all of that. And I just want to turn off. I want to turn off sometimes. Not all of the time. I'm fine, guys. But sometimes, like, and the idea of the hospital, the way that Craig describes it, obviously not everyone's experience, but the way Craig describes it, it seems so peaceful. Like, I don't want to decide what I'm eating. I don't want to decide what I'm wearing. I don't want to decide where I'm going. And like his roommate who just sits in bed all day. Again, I understand that that's a miserable place to be. I do. And I sometimes wish that I could let myself, because I can't just let myself.
It feels like a false cure to me.
I'm not saying it's a cure.
No, I know that you're not saying it's a cure. But when I think about like wanting that, because like I've wanted that at times where I'm like, I just want to be able to like completely detach, Mm-hmm. And I don't, for a lot of reasons, including the fact that I'm like, it feels to me, there's a part of me that feels like it's going to cure what's going on. But rationally, I know it's like definitely not, because that's not how it works, because life isn't cured. It's managed. Thank you, Dr. Mahmood.
You're obnoxious.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a real tangent, and maybe you should cut that out. But if we keep it.
Staying in.
At some point you said you really liked Nia. Did you like her by the end?
I liked Nia because she called Aaron.
Uh-huh.
She called Aaron out on his crap.
Uh-huh.
And then it became like, oh, I guess she also calls Craig out on his crap. But then I don't remember a whole lot of the details, but I feel like she kind of took things too far. There were a couple of things that I was just like, maybe that's funny to both of you, but like when he tells her like, oh, I'm on this medication, and she's like, oh, you're not even really messed up until you're taking whatever she was taking. Yeah. I don't remember. And again, like tone and relationships, I don't know. But it kind of felt like, oh my gosh, like get off his back. Like this is all very new to him and you're being really insensitive about it. But also like, I feel like I felt kind of neutral about her at the end, because I also feel like she helped Craig understand a little bit more about his own mental health through some of this. I don't know. Like it felt like he had more of an opportunity to stick up for himself against Nia. And he also got to like overcome his infatuation with Nia, partly because of what's her face.
Oh, what a thing to call her.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to remember her name. It's been a minute. Partly because of the girl he ends up having a crush on and kind of dating by the end and everything. But partly because I feel like he kind of sees her for who she is and is kind of like, oh, I actually don't want this. Like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And I did appreciate her, I guess, as an instrument of that.
As a plot device, sure. But you liked her as a person at the beginning.
At the beginning, yeah, because she called out Aaron on his crap, and that was something that needed to happen.
Why did you say Aaron so weird?
I don't know. You're not going to be able to find it.
I am. This is their date.
Oh.
So she's got to be here.
Noelle?
Yeah.
Noelle.
Good job.
Yeah.
I think Nia was selfish. I think the entire time Nia was extremely selfish, and I never liked her, and I dislike her the whole time.
I do feel like seeing the way that she ends up treating Craig later on made me realize that, like, okay, yeah, she was calling Aaron on his crap, but it was selfishly motivated the whole time, basically.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying.
And like, was she actually calling Aaron on his crap, or was she just like kind of bringing up stuff, but then still sleeping with him?
Yeah.
Like sometimes when Craig was around, like, I don't know. I felt like Nia was really selfish when Craig calls her to ask her, like, whether he had a shot with her and everything.
Yeah.
And then she's like, don't do anything stupid, whatever. He's like, sure, whatever. And then she calls him in the hospital. And she's like, were you going to kill yourself about me? I'm like, gross. Go away. You are not a helper.
I forgot about that. Actually, yeah, that was
How
really
did you
bad.
forget about
I don't
that?
know. But I'm now remembering exactly where I was when I heard that. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
And you still, I feel like, liked Nia at that point.
Maybe.
And
No, probably. That might have been a bit of a shift moment, honestly. Because that's messed up.
I did not like Nia. I felt like she was really selfish. I especially hated when she came to the hospital and seduced is maybe a strong word for a child, but she was using her wiles on Craig and like didn't actually care about him, but just wanted the proof that she was wanted. And that was yucky to me. I don't know. I didn't like her. I get the, like, she's a teenager. It's whatever.
These are all children.
These are all children. I didn't like me as a child either. So take that how you will. But I think it was just hard. I felt like I liked Aaron by the end of the book more than I liked Nia.
Yeah. He had a bit of a coming around.
Yeah.
Like, he is still not a very, very good friend, but he showed up in some significant ways.
Yeah. And like Craig talks about how he's a peripheral friend. He's an acquaintance, not necessarily a friend anymore. But like, I do feel like it was interesting that you were like, I like Nia. And I was like, I hate Nia. I want her out of my story. What do you think about the fractional life crisis theory that Craig develops?
It's kind of funny because it feels like it almost invalidates the concept of a midlife crisis in a way. Like, no, I mean, maybe not invalidates it, but it removes the gatekeeping aspect of like, you only get to like have a crisis related to your age when you're at midlife. And it feels like he's basically like, oh no, you can have a crisis related to your age at like any part of your life, basically.
I think it's interesting. My understanding of the theory was that actually we've created so many stressors as humans that the midlife crisis used to be the standard. But as we've created more stressors, it just has gotten earlier and earlier. So it's not like, oh, you can have a crisis at any time. It's just like, oh, stress is so bad now that instead of being able to kind of survive life until 45, you're now having a crisis at 16.
Yeah.
You're losing your mind that early because life is that much more stressful. And he talks about how eventually kids are just going to come out of the womb and immediately get prescribed Prozac.
I forgot about that.
Because we're just making life so much worse as humans.
It's an astute observation for a 16-year-old for sure.
Yeah. I think it's interesting.
14-year-old?
I don't remember how old he was.
For a child.
For a child. He's a child.
He's a child.
But I did think it was just like kind of a fascinating thing to really look at that and look at how different that is. Because we have actually created longer lifespans, largely. Like the midlife crisis used to be a lot earlier, you know? And like, even like 35 was technically midlife when life expectancy was 70. I'm a year away from that nonsense. I know, you're basically dead.
Yeah.
But, you know, as we've made life longer and everything, the idea would be that these crises wait until later. But we are, I think, seeing, especially, I'm listening to the anxious generation right now. And so with that anxious generation, Gen Z, we're seeing it hit a lot sooner because we're exposing these humans to so much more at a younger age. We're putting more pressure on them. We're expecting more of them. We're expecting them to process so much more information and just like all of this stuff.
And at the same time, we're also like babying them in so many more ways and keeping them away from certain stress-inducing activities, which like is a very like, there are a lot of things that we're keeping kids away from now that are probably for the best.
Cigarettes,
and yeah, man, you went all the way there. That's awesome. But like, we're also then preventing them from certain activities where they would learn, you know, they would learn the resilience, and that they would learn that like, hey, if you do this, it hurts you, and it's not going to kill you, but it's going to hurt you. And you know, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's interesting. I do wonder, I mean, I don't think we're going to have babies coming out being prescribed Prozac or anything, but like, we have young kids in therapy already, and therapy wasn't a thing I was aware of at the age of some of our children going into therapy. And it's really interesting.
It is really interesting, but also I feel like personally, ideally, our kids are in therapy so that they don't have the crisis sooner.
Yeah.
Because I was in crisis as a teenager, and I don't want our kids to be in crisis as teenagers.
Yeah.
I want them to have the coping mechanisms and everything. So it's more preventative care, yes, I would say, than the, oh my gosh, everything's really bad and we got to do something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What did you think of the ending of the book?
Like his whole thing with Noelle, etc. Him getting
just all of it. I mean, there wasn't like necessarily a really distinct ending.
There wasn't. That was kind of interesting. It ended up being like kind of a memoir of sorts, right? Because it basically is something that happened to the author.
Yeah. Which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah. But there wasn't like a solid resolution of any kind. I don't know. It did kind of center around the synopsis thing of him going to an adult psychiatric ward and everything.
So how did you fil about that? About it maybe not having an ending? That's
very weird for me. There's usually some kind of like a climactic moment and then a denouement and like all of this stuff. And there sort of was with his like little date with Noelle and him like putting all the pieces in place to make that happen. So I guess, that was nice. It was in a way combination, like it was high stakes and low stakes at the same time. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, it was interesting. I don't know. I was good with it. It was a little bit more comfortable, which maybe is nice considering the subject matter of the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think the brain maps that Craig was drawing are a powerful enough anchor?
I don't know. I thought it was really interesting, and it felt like a good opportunity for him to connect with other people, which realistically was one of the main things that he was missing in his life, right? I think that I would have to get a little bit more information about how that continued to go outside of the hospital. Right, because I think does he maybe end up doing some for his family members when he gets out, and so I'm sure that continues, and hopefully he continues to do that with more people. How much of an anchor it would be feels like something that you can only really know by time. It does feel like as he discovers what he's doing with the brain maps, is that what it's called? You do see a pretty significant shift in him, and you see like maybe he's starting to derive some actual purpose, which is great. How much of an anchor it is, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that takes time, which we don't have in the story.
So I think it's interesting, my personal perspective on it, the book, according to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Is actually that the anchor is within himself. He's anchoring back to a childhood version of him where life was simpler.
Because he wanted to be an artist, right?
Yeah.
Or a map.
Yeah, a map maker.
A map maker.
But he could never finish the maps.
Yeah, and this enabled him to do that in an unexpected way.
Yeah. But it really did. I think there's something really beautiful about connecting with things that we loved when we were innocent and young, and having that be an anchor. I think it's been interesting to see you with video games. Mm-hmm. I feel like video games are an anchor for you.
Yep.
You enjoyed those when you were young. There's something, even like we've talked about how after Christmas, if you don't get a video game for Christmas and you don't get like some time after Christmas to play a new video game, it doesn't really feel like Christmas to you. That's an anchor to you, to a simpler time, to relaxation, to innocence.
To be a kid again.
And obviously the brain maps are, and even the video games that you're playing, for the record, are an expansion of that and a different iteration of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool. That's something that I've really been working on in myself, is reconnecting with these younger interests and these, with the innocence of myself as a younger person and what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be and how I can make that make sense in the actual real reality of where we are.
Is reading an anchor like that for you?
I think so, yeah. I mean, even just, I love to reread books. I love to read new books, obviously, but I also love to reread books, and there's a real comfort and anchoring in that.
Yeah. There's an anchoring in replaying video games that I love. Yeah. Which I don't do for a lot of games, but when I do, it's because I really, really like it.
Yeah. So I really liked the concept of the brain maps, and the anchoring that they were, and just the concept of it.
Yeah.
Ned Vizzini, the author, wrote this book in less than a month, a week after spending 5 days in adult psychiatric. So he spent 5 days in adult psychiatric, November 29th, 2004 to December 3rd, 2004. And then he wrote this December 10th through January 6th.
Just burned through it.
So like you said, it feels like maybe this is a little bit autobiographical.
Yeah.
But I also, as we talk about anchors, do you think that this book was an anchor for
absolutely. Yeah. Especially because I imagine between December 4th and December 10th or whatever, when he got out but hadn't started writing it, he has to have been having some moments of just like, I cannot believe the ride this has been.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe even had a therapist say like, well, why don't you write it down or something? Like write it in a journal or whatever. And he's like, what if I become a published author? So it's like very human. I don't know. And good for him, honestly.
Did you know that he published began writing at the New York Press at the age of 15?
I did not.
And published his first book at 19?
So he didn't publish this until 19?
No, his first book was Teen Angst.
Oh.
So he's written a bunch of stuff, but like he was very accomplished from a very young age. He was writing for a newspaper at 15. He published his first book at 19. I could not tell you how old he was exactly when he wrote this, and how long it was from writing to publishing and like all of that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's really interesting to compare his character to Craig.
Yeah.
And to see the similarities of a young, very accomplished, intelligent person just doing their best.
All we can ever do.
It's true. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything that really struck you about the book, or anything that maybe you related to or wondered if I related to, or anything?
We've talked about some of that, I think, a little bit. I think in terms of like relating to Craig, it's, again, I appreciate the candor in his thoughts and his willingness to like write some of those things down. I think it's really good to get that perspective. And I could imagine that a book like this to a kid going through similar things would be particularly useful, and that they would be able to relate to it pretty well, honestly. So I think it's a worthwhile novel. Obviously, it comes with those caveats of some of those trigger warnings that we talked about. But I really enjoyed reading this book.
Good. I'm glad.
What about you?
I super enjoyed it and could probably talk about all of it a lot. We didn't even get into any of the other characters' issues, really, and there's a lot there.
There is.
But just want to close out today letting you know that if you are struggling, if you need anything, there is the Crisis and Suicide Hotline here in the US where you can text or call 988 and be connected automatically with a crisis person, a crisis hotline person. Mm-hmm. There's probably a better word for that I should have looked up. But please don't hesitate to reach out to them. They will help you, and we want you here. The world is a better place with you in it.
It is. Thanks for joining us, y'all. We appreciate you, and we love you.
You do.